Domenic's on the radio. Just got done with a walk. A little sweaty, but gonna take a drive.
You're listening to 100.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Ray Richardson. Thanks for joining us. Very much appreciate it. We're broadcasting live from the RowAutoGroup.com studio. And don't forget, our DirigoPartners.net text line is 207-409-6172. A number of years ago, we were down at Dunegrass for a wedding, and the DJ played this song, and I never will forget, because the mother of the groom, they literally put her up. They elevated her. You know, you'd call it crowd surfing if you were at a concert, but they sort of crowd surfed her around the room. And Dee Dee and I have known the mother of the groom for a very, very long time, and it was so out of character for her. She's a fun person, but that was so out of character. But I never will forget being down at Dunegrass for a wedding reception, and when the DJ played this song, the place just lit up like you would not believe. You may be wondering why I mentioned that. Well, Domenic is joining us with Dunegrass. Good morning.
How are you, Ray?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you very much for having me on today.
Absolutely. That was a fun wedding reception down at Dunegrass. I will never forget it.
Yeah, well, fortunately, we do weddings just about every Saturday in season, and some of them are really mild and quiet, and others are just absolutely off the chart. We kind of like the ones that are off the chart.
Yeah, well, that's the ones we remember. Well, we knew that afternoon and night was going to be wild when the bride and the groom and the whole wedding party, when they got introduced, instead of just walking in and smiling, they did their own dances as they walked into the room. So we knew it was going to be a wild time.
Yeah, those are fun. And they're even more fun when somebody does it and falls down. And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Well, maybe by then they sipped a little too much champagne, so they probably don't feel the fall at that point.
Absolutely.
So you got a big event coming up at Dunegrass for former Governor Paul LePage tomorrow. Why don't you share the details?
Well, yeah, we're hoping he's going to be our next governor again. So, these times are really tough, as we all know, and I think that this next election cycle is going to really be the most important one in our lives anyway. And I really think that we need to send a message and get as many Republicans in power as possible. And, that starts at the local level and then the state level and then obviously the national level. So I've known Paul for a while. He's a great guy. He did great things for the state. So I thought that we'd try to take advantage of the rooms that we have here at Dunegrass and run a fundraiser for him and see if we can generate some income so that we can get some publicity out there and get some advertisements. And because as you've seen, Governor Mills is already on the TV and running ads, and we can't get behind, so we need to raise some money for him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Domenic, let me ask you, you and I got to know each other during the pandemic. You were a guest here on the show a few times. Do you think that your fellow business owners, are there memories of the horror of the pandemic and what Janet Mills did? Are they fading, or are these guys resolved as ever?
Well, I personally, the people I know, I think are as resolved as ever. But, it's easy to fall back and get relaxed again now that things are a little better. And Janet's been very quiet since she shut the state down and really devastated our local economy. I've kind of taken a play out of the Biden playbook, I think. And that's why I think that we need to get, loud and proud right now and raise some money, get some advertisements on the TV and on the radio, and remind the world of what a bad job she did do when she needed to be strongest and she was the weakest.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, she really. I'm writing a book. I'm just completing it. I think probably tomorrow. I hope and pray tomorrow because I've got this done. But it is about Paul LePage. But there's a section on the book's in three sections. The first is the recap, what he did during 8 years that moved Maine forward. The second is, of course, the mess that Janet Mills has made, and a lot of it talks about what she did during the pandemic and how she was just so dictatorial with the business community and the people of the state, going against science despite what she claimed. And we now know that so many of her decisions were detrimental to Maine industries, to the medical care facilities of the state, and of course to our people. So I just hope that memories aren't fading. Often in this country they are. They do fade quite quickly. But the tyranny of COVID from Janet Mills and governors like her around the country needs to be ended at the ballot box.
I could not agree with you more, and I could not agree with you more that she acted like a complete dictator. Her decisions were capricious at best. I actually talked to a massage therapist the other day who said that during the pandemic they let tattoo artists work, but not her. I mean, it was just like, how do you make these decisions? How do you make a decision that it was unsafe to go play golf in a 150-acre outside environment with nobody within 6 feet of you? How can you, even if the science said at the time, which they were saying that, you could get it if you were close or by touching flag sticks, ridiculous things like that. It was outside, and they stopped our business. It was just, it's mind-boggling that somebody that has absolutely no experience running a business, I don't think she's ever run a lemonade stand.
No, she hasn't.
Never mind run a business. And as you know, being a governor is like you're the CEO of a big company. And she does not know how to run a company. She has no idea about business. And as we know, Paul does. And that's why he was so effective when he was governor.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And, just to go to the golf point, we talked about it so much here on the airwaves. At the time, there were places around the country, were there concerns? Yes, there were concerns. But, life is for the living, for people to keep moving forward. And there were places around the country, they did things. They set up, for example, you went online and had to set up a tee time. You had to arrive. You couldn't arrive too early. People couldn't cluster. They removed the pens so that people weren't touching them. Did it make it a little more difficult when you couldn't see the pen from 200 yards out? Yeah, but, they adapted and they still kept playing golf. And you're right, it's an outdoor sport. It was a great opportunity for people to get some exercise and some fresh air. And because she has spent virtually her entire life in government in one form or another, whether it was as the AG, the current governor, serving in the House of Representatives, or as a district attorney for 17 years, all she knows is governor. And there's an old saying, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, she had the government, and she decided government power is all she knows.
Yes, and quite frankly, it hasn't stopped. I mean, in what world do you think paying people $850 because they decided to do the right thing and work is a smart move?
Right.
When we as a state need money to do certain infrastructure projects or whatever it may be, but giving it to people who actually work, I just don't get it. The decision making is just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it's focused on government-centric instead of people-centric. The difference between Paul LePage and Janet Mills is pretty simple. Paul LePage believes in the individual. He trusts the people of Maine. Janet Mills believes in government, and she does not trust the people of Maine, which is too bad because, she was born and raised here. She knows this state. She's from a rural area over in the Farmington area, but she doesn't trust the people in this state. There are governors like Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis. What they did is they empowered their people with the very best information and then trusted them to do the right thing. Janet Mills did not do that. What Janet Mills did was give out information, much of which wasn't the very best information, and then she dictated how people would live. Can you imagine a governor, Domenic? We're talking with Domenic from Dunegrass. Can you imagine a governor of any state in this country, the freest country in the world, determining who is and who is not essential in our society?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling that somebody can think that they have that power, but it is the Democrat way. I mean, they really want to control us. They want They want us to be dependent upon them for health care, for money, for everything. When, in fact, if you leave Americans alone, they will do what they need to do, because that's what the society is built on. This society is built on us being a capitalistic society where the harder you work, the further ahead that you will get, and the more money that you'll have for your family. I mean, it's not waiting there for the government with your hand out saying, give me money, which is what they're doing. They're just giving money away right now. And we just can't continue to print money at this rate and think that we're going to have the same society that we've had for the last 100 years. It's just, it's not going to happen.
No, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right about that. And all Janet Mills has done, if you ask anybody what her economic policy is, how to advance our economy, what is her policy? Her policy is to go around and take this money that she's been given by the federal government and go out and hand out grants. She has no real vision for the future of the state. And we need someone like LePage, who's been in the private sector, who knows what it's like to sign the front and the back of a paycheck, who knows what it's like to lay awake at night and make sure that you have payroll money. Mills has never had to worry about any of those things because her paycheck has always come from the hardworking taxpayer of the state, which is overburdened. Depending on the matrix you look at, we're either third or fourth highest tax burden state in the country. But our incomes aren't up there. You know, we're one of the lowest income states in the country. That means working class people are working harder for less because of the policies of liberals like Janet Mills.
I mean, that Janet Mills brought in the state that was not in the state before of any size. You can't, because she didn't do it. She doesn't know how to do it. She doesn't know how to lure companies in to do business in this state, which is a great state. As you know, the workers in Maine are very, very hard workers.
Yeah, of course. They're wonderful people. It's why we live here.
They're wonderful people. And companies would love to come here and use the resources that we have. She has no idea how to pick that telephone up and to call a company and say, hey, we've got a place where you can come and we can give you some tax credits, you know, some tips or whatever it may be to lure them in. She just has no idea how to do that.
Because of the long-term benefits at the region. Well, you know who does? Our neighbor to the west, Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire. He was in studio here for about 45 minutes about 3 weeks ago. And we talked about the vast differences about how New Hampshire approaches the economy and Maine does. And guess what? Maine's household incomes are around 56.1. New Hampshire's household incomes average about 74.4. New Hampshire's economy grew in the first quarter of 2022. Maine's economy receded in the first quarter of 2022. They're our neighbor to the west. They're the ones we compete with the most. Our border towns are at a disadvantage because of these crazy tax policies, and yet they won't even recognize it. They just want more, and finally they just want more.
Exactly. I mean, it's pretty sad that I pay more money for a bottle of alcohol in Maine wholesale than you would retail in New Hampshire.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean,
it's because of the insatiable desire to take what we have. That's the problem here, Dominic. This used to be a state where leave us the hell alone was the state motto, the unofficial state motto. Now today, the unofficial state motto is, how can we control you? We're going to get into every orifice of your life, and we're going to make it more difficult, so eventually you're dependent on us. That is no way for a government to operate in a free society.
No way. That's why we need Paul LePage back.
Amen.
Plain and simple.
So
that's
you got.
Why we need Paul LePage back. I'd love for any of your listeners out there. Tomorrow from 5 to 7, we'll be having a reception. You can meet Paul. I'm sure he's going to get up and say a few words. We would just love to have you come and just meet the guy, even if you don't agree with him at this point. Maybe you have more in common than you don't. But I really firmly believe that if we don't make this change in November, we're going to continue to recede with our economy. And I think the only way to turn it around is to get people like Paul LePage back in and working for the people of this state.
I could not agree with you more. You're absolutely correct, and I'm really glad that you're doing this, stepping up and being counted on behalf of who we believe is our future governor. Domenic, we have got to run. Thank you so much. Let's get you back on. Come up to the studio sometime. We'll talk a little golf. I've been playing golf since I was 6 years old. We'll talk about dune grass and talk about the business of business in the state of Maine.
I would love to do that with you anytime, Ray. It's always a pleasure.
All right, well, text me. Text me some dates at work, and we'll do that.
All right, you got it.
Domenic, thanks for being with us, and thanks for hosting the fundraiser for Governor LePage tomorrow night. We got to run. We'll be right back, 9:20.